Welcome to episode 8 of the Inspiration Station podcast. For this week's episode, we will meet the co-founder of PhyCo Technologies, a science tech startup that is merging sustainable materials and environmental innovation to contribute to an eco-friendly future. Here we go. Okay, welcome back to the Inspiration Station podcast. My name is Carson Keller. I have been your host on this limited series podcast, and it has been such an incredible journey so far, and we're about to dive into another wonderful story. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
I think I'm ready. So let's introduce our guest for today. This week, we will delve into the world of sustainable materials and environmental innovation. Our guest is a co-founder of PhyCo Technologies, a company that is transforming the way we approach plastic production by developing bio-based plastic from seaweed. Her groundbreaking work has earned PhyCo recognition as the top winner of SFU's 2023 Coast Capital Venture Prize competition. She also emerged as the first place winner in the 2022 OceanWise Innovator Lab. With a passion for environment and a commitment to creating positive change, our guest is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the pursuit of a greener future. Get ready to be inspired by their journey of merging science, sustainability, and entrepreneurship. She has also participated in the esteemed MyTax Invention to Innovation Skills Training Program at SFU. Together, we'll explore their innovative approach to reducing dependency on unsustainable plastics and creating a more well-rounded economy. Learn how her environmental expertise and collaboration with Indigenous communities are paving the way for a more environmentally friendly future. Stay tuned for an insightful conversation with our esteemed guest, Master's candidate, and SFU's very own Ranah Chavoshi. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Right off the top, very heavy emphasis on PhyCo Technologies in your bio. So I'm curious to know, maybe for the audience, what is PhyCo Technologies?
So we are a marine biotechnology company. We specifically focus on working with Indigenous nations to do seaweed aquaculture. And then we utilize the seaweed that's grown for different products. And the first one that we're developing is a line of products that are earth digestible and compostable plastics.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah. So a big emphasis on sustainability.
Yes, huge emphasis.
Wow. And I'm sort of curious to know, how did we arrive at, sustainable plastics? Where did the idea come from?
It's a long story, but to summarize, after I finished my undergraduate degree, I took a gap year. I'd finished up some work contracts because I used to work in environmental education. Right. So I felt like I wasn't getting challenged enough and I wanted to try something new. And so I wanted to travel a little bit as well while I had the opportunity. So I went to Southeast Asia and I wanted to get my scuba diving license because you're a marine biologist. You should probably have your scuba diving license.
Probably.
It's a useful skill set to have. So I ended up getting my license in Malaysia, and we heard about this world-class diving institution, or this location. It was part of Jacques Cousteau's top 10 dive sites in the world, so that's a big, big thing. It was called Sipadan in Malaysia. It's in Borneo in Malaysia. So in order to get there, you have to go through the port city of Semporna. And what's really interesting about Semporna is that when you arrive there, you get hit with a wall of a very interesting smell. We got there in the evening, and we got there, and it smelt very strange to me. I'd never smelled anything like it before. So we just figured something strange is happening. So let's just go to bed. We'll go look for a dive shop tomorrow to go take us to this beautiful dive shop. We go out the next day. The smell's still persisting. And then we get to the beachfront where a lot of the dive shops are located. And I look out over the water expecting a pristine sandy beach. Mm-hmm. What I see instead is a massive, massive amount of garbage. And the smell that we've been smelling is burning garbage. And that was because there was a mass production of plastic, and then there was no way to manage it. So the locals would either burn it or they would just toss it straight into the environment. So there was plastic on the streets, there was plastic on the beach. Every wave coming in was full of plastic. I'd never seen anything like it before. And that was in 2016. So I came back to Canada, and I remember naively thinking to myself that, I'm in Canada, this would never happen here. I started my master's, COVID hit, And then we started seeing plastic everywhere here as well.
Yeah.
We saw it with gloves. We saw it with personal protective equipment. We started using plastic shopping bags again for health reasons relating to COVID, which is understandable. But we went away from this zero waste kind of mentality right back to where we were. And it kind of hit me at that time that how it had been 5 years since I was in Semporna, Malaysia, and we had not progressed at all. Yeah. So that's where all of it really stems from.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just so fascinated just in you mentioning that the pandemic hit and then we just went right back to our old ways per se. Because I remember there was a lot of like effort put into like removing single-use plastics and taking these things out of our immediate environment to sort of help with a sustainable future, and just how easy it is just to go back to our old habits. I'm curious to know if the efforts that you've made with PhyCo Technologies, how are these plastics sustainable? I know you may mention that they're made from seaweed, but do you care to sort of elaborate on how it is a sustainable practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So most people don't know this, but plastic itself is petroleum derived. It's from oil and gas. That's where it comes from. It's polymer. And as an invention, it's really great. It was invented in the 1950s. So we've innovated a lot with it, and it's allowed us to live in a culture of convenience, which is really, really nice. But it comes at a cost because those plastics persist in the environment. When they get out into the environment, they break down because they end up in the environment, and things like the sun, as well as wave action and other things, they just break down. But the problem is that they persist. And they're persisting everywhere. There's been a lot of evidence to show that they're ending up in the depths of the Marianas Trench, in the Himalaya mountain range. There's evidence that it's even in our bodies because they break down into microplastics and nanoplastics. And my concern as someone who's, a toxicologist is we don't really know. We can quantify where they are now, but we don't know what's going on with them in our bodies or how they're really affecting the environment. And it's, I think, a major concern that we haven't figured out how to deal with this.
Yeah.
So in terms of what we're doing, we're working with seaweed. So seaweed specifically, well, they're native to British Columbia's coastline, so that's one plus. They grow very rapidly. Depending on the species of seaweed, you can have a kelp forest within 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks. Yeah, it's very fast. Depends on the species. And while they're growing, they sequester carbon, which is really good for the environment because that helps us mitigate the effects of climate change. And then the last thing is that they also uptake other types of nutrients and cycle them that way as well, like nitrogen and phosphorus. So overall, seaweed really benefit the environment because they do those things. And naturally grown seaweed found in nature provides a lot of habitat for organisms. So doing seaweed aquaculture is an extension of that. So we're adding seaweed to our local ecosystems in a way that's well managed and sustainable to a reasonable scale. And so that's going to let us, provide temporary habitat for some organisms. It's going to provide us with waste that can sequester carbon, which is really great. And so if we think about all those different factors, it is environmentally beneficial to use something that is a better carbon source. So that's one way of how seaweed are better than the conventional type of plastic.
So not only are you using seaweed as a medium for creating a sustainable type of plastic, you're also alleviating the harmful effects of CO2?
Yeah, carbon, methane, carbon, the whole carbon cycle.
Basically. From the harm that we're causing to our environment.
Exactly.
That is so fascinating. And I'm very grateful for the efforts that you put into this because as somebody, I've taken a couple environmental-based classes at SFU, and I've learned sort of a little bit of how detrimental the effects of plastic and CO2 and all of these toxic minerals being released into our environment. It can really damage a lot of things. And we've noticed that with climate change coming into play, it's increasingly becoming such a big concern for us.
Yeah.
Where does PhyCo come into that in terms of the mitigation, I guess, of plastics?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So one of the things that we're developing is a type of bio-based polymer that would break down more quickly. That's one of the benefits of what we're doing. So in that regard, we're polluting less, which is great. And we're also, building up some seaweed aquaculture infrastructure, seaweed farming infrastructure that not only provides some of the things we just talked about, but also provides a means of income to certain coastal rural communities.
Yeah.
So part of what we're doing is, yes, environmental, but that comes into play with social equity as well. And that's really, really foundational to what we're doing because, you know, if you look at British Columbia's coastline, we have 25,000 kilometers of coastline.
Yeah.
We're not going to farm all of it, but there are communities along that entire coastline who would benefit from projects like these. So we're hoping to work with Indigenous nations, some of which we're already working with, but essentially just working with them, finding ways to promote economic resiliency in these communities, which will also enable them to, you know, mitigate climate change locally as well, because putting out seaweed in a farm helps things on a local level as well, both environmentally and economically.
Oh.
Cat.
That is a noise that we hear every single episode on the Inspiration Station podcast. So you'd have no idea what's about to happen.
Oh, good.
It's a little game we like to play called the Mindset Matters Minute.
Okay.
So at the Charles Chang Institute for Entrepreneurship, we have a very heavy emphasis on the entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay.
As you know, there are 12 attributes that sort of help entrepreneurs in their journey. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present you with one of these attributes from the entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay.
And you're going to have 1 minute to provide your definition of what that attribute is.
I will do my best.
Yeah? Are you game for this?
Yeah, I'm game.
Fantastic. 1 minute.
1 minute.
Ready?
Oh, God. All right.
Okay.
You have to stop laughing because I'm going to start laughing.
Okay.
Okay.
Ranah,
Yes.
your word from the entrepreneurial mindset attributes is imagination and creativity.
I think imagination and creativity basically lie at kind of the core of an entrepreneur. You're thinking about things in a really different way. You see the world a little bit differently and you see opportunities. I think that's one way that you see an opportunity and you find creative ways to fill that opportunity. That's one way. And I think also it's tied into curiosity and finding ways that things can work and whether they don't. And I think that's, for me personally as a scientist, that's just the way I'm driven.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of being creative and imaginative, a lot of it is curiosity based and seeing what works, what doesn't, can I problem solve, and then going from there.
Exactly.
And being open-minded as well, because some of the ideas that can come to you, they don't fit the mold of what works in this world, and breaking out of that really helps to see, okay, can I envision something that is different to what is considered the norm? And that's usually what leads to a lot of really successful people that I've seen in terms of entrepreneurship, is them thinking outside of the box and saying, all right, well, this is the norm. How can I break this? How can I do it differently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is something that is so vital to success in entrepreneurship, is outside thinking and innovative thinking. Because if you're going to be doing something that everyone has seen before, or something that is generic to whatever practice that you're performing, it's going to take you nowhere. And one thing that I think, especially at PhyCo Technologies, that you're doing in creating sustainable plastic solutions is you're not only helping create a sustainable future, but you are mitigating harmful toxins, you are collaborating with Indigenous communities, and it really is wholeheartedly such a beautiful effort and a beautiful initiative.
Thank you.
And I think that you just defined everything that you're working towards in without even knowing it.
Thank you. That's a nice reminder.
Yeah. So let's dive a little bit into what you just said. You made mention about, lots of outside thinking and different ways of approaching things. So in the early stages of PhyCo Technologies, did you find yourself in any of SFU's entrepreneurship ecosystem?
I think the earliest that I even found out about entrepreneurship or some sort of fellowship was participating actually in the Radius Fellowship.
Okay.
So I'm a Radius alumni, and that's a fantastic program for folks to look at, I think, if they want to develop community, that they want to build leadership skills, that they want to develop a network of peers that are really passionate about making change in completely different ways. So for me, that experience was kind of my first foray a little bit in. It wasn't entrepreneurship necessarily.
More like social innovation.
Yeah, social innovation is a better way to put it. So that's where this idea sort of started taking formation in my mind.
Sure.
And then I found out about some of the opportunities available through my tax granting through their funding body, as well as SFU's I2I program and the Lab to Market program that exists as well, that's available for graduate and undergraduate students. I think it's open, it's actually for graduate students who are science-based and want to develop tech out, which is really lucky and fortunate to have in Canada.
Yeah, and something that you're able to take full advantage of.
Exactly.
Yeah. And all of this has led you to winning, might I say, Venture Prize this year.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that, by the way. That is
you.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
What was that journey like in getting to that, the big win?
Well, it's actually funny because the year prior where we actually started working on PhyCo a bit more, I just missed the deadline for applying for it.
Oh, no.
And so I just remember being so heartbroken and saying, oh, no, I missed it. So I made a mental note for myself to be like, I'm going to participate next year and I'm going to win. That's the mindset I had. Yeah.
Very ambitious.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to win this thing. That's kind of a year out beforehand. And fortunately, that amount of time gave me more time to work on the business, find a co-founder, and develop things out a bit more. And so, you could say it was a long game that I was playing. But the experience overall was really good. I think because we came in prepared and were strategic. I enjoyed pitching as well. I prepped that pitch quite a lot. I practiced it like crazy.
Oh, I can imagine.
To get it perfect. And I think I did a good job.
Wow, good for you. Venture Prize is one of the pillar events at the Chang Institute. And winning it definitely does speak to a lot of success in your venture. We've been going back to quite a bit during the podcast is the identification of an entrepreneur. And as a science student from SFU, and as somebody who is sort of approaching their venture from more of a scientific perspective, where did that spark sort of arrive in your mind where you realized, oh my goodness, I am an entrepreneur and what I'm doing is very innovative?
Yeah, that's a good question. It wasn't during my undergraduate journey, to be honest. I didn't really know what I wanted from my undergrad. Like I knew the general field of what I wanted to do and whatnot, but I did not even think entrepreneurship was an option at that time. I think Radius definitely opened that up a bit. Ultimately, what really was the spark was me being close to finishing up my degree, my master's degree, and realizing that I didn't want to work in fields that I didn't feel passionate about. I wanted to actually have an impact that was, quick, could actually benefit communities, was environmentally focused. And I kept looking for an opportunity that would pop up, but nothing really fit the mold of what I wanted.
Okay.
And so I think I realized that what I really wanted was to work with seaweeds and specifically build that industry up in BC and in Canada as well.
I feel like a lot of people kind of want that for themselves. They sort of enter their undergraduate journey, or I guess at any point in their life, realizing, oh, maybe I want to be my own boss. I have this idea. I have something that I want to work on in the future that's I'm very passionate about. Now I'm sort of wondering, that since we've been talking about this, do you have any advice for anybody who might be in that stage of their life and realizing I want to be my own boss and I have this idea? What's the next step that I can take?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it is really individual. There's no clear cookie cut answer. You have to have confidence in yourself. For me, I was really lucky. I had a particular mentor who I had been talking to for about a year. He always kind of just kept nudging me a little bit, just saying like, are you sure you want to do that? What about this? Have you looked into this? And slowly over time, I was like, you know what? He's right. I think he saw it in me before I saw it in myself. So I think having the confidence in yourself to do it, because it is a massive risk to take on building a business.
Always.
Even regardless of the business, it's very difficult to start a business.
Yeah.
So you have to be confident in yourself. You have to be knowledgeable about what you're doing. And I think finding mentors in spaces specifically, or industries or sectors that you're interested is even more key. So I would really recommend for people to go to, say, if you're working in ocean tech, approach an ocean tech organization, and they usually have mentors and so on and so forth. So if it's climate, if it's ocean tech, if it's agriculture based, there are people with a wealth of knowledge, and some of them are really nice and willing to take you on as a mentee. And if you show them that you're capable, they'll really be champions for you.
Yeah, and across the SFU Mentor Meet program that we have mentors who specialize in so many different areas, and they're always willing to, I guess, just to provide their advice and their expertise in those very niche areas, because as we mentioned, in entrepreneurship, to create that impact, you need to have a very targeted approach that you're making. And those mentors are willing to do that, and they have the expertise and the knowledge in those little areas that can really help. Yes. Oh my goodness, the network. Yes, the network can really help expand your reach. Yeah, absolutely. Starting off a new business.
Absolutely, and I think actually I failed to mention that I actually did meet with some of the mentors a long time ago. It just completely blanked my mind. But I did actually do 2 consultations from the mentor meets, and both of those consultations were really successful because they introduced me to people in their network who ended up being champions for us.
Good.
So, yeah.
I'm conscious of our time. We're starting to run out of it, unfortunately. And Ranah, this has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I've got just one more question to ask you. What is next for Ranah? What is next for PhyCo Technologies? What is next in the big realm of things for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I think next for me is finishing my degree. My master's is going to be wrapped up hopefully very soon by the end of fall.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have to defend it, so hold your applause. And then continuing to work on PhyCo. We're starting to build out our team actually right now, and we're in the process of onboarding a couple new team members, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome.
And just keep an eye out for us. We're going to continue. It's a
long
journey, but I'm hopeful.
And I'm so excited for whatever journey you're going to be on. Where can our audience find you and PhyCo Technologies?
Yeah, I mean, we have our website, phyco.ca. You can follow me at Biology on the Go on Instagram and so on. So Twitter, Instagram.
Well, there you go. It's been such a pleasure having you on the Inspiration Station podcast today. And you guys, that's all we have today. Thank you so much for listening. And this, again, has been another episode of the Inspiration Station. We will see you in the next one. Bye.
Cool.
Do you want to say hi?
Daddy, come here, bud. He can't hear. I don't know why I even bothered him. Come on, old man. Come on.
Oh my goodness. He's like, not right now, please, Mom.
He's in a deep REM cycle. Come here, buddy.
Aww.
Yeah. He's an old boy, but he's a good boy.
Who's this?
This is Debu. He's my bestest friend in the whole world. He's been in my life for a long time, and he's really important to me. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So precious.
Yeah, he's a great dog. He was my field assistant while I was doing my master's, and now he is a terrible executive assistant.
And hey, you know what? You'd rather have a terrible executive assistant than no executive assistant at all.
Exactly. He makes up for it in cuteness.
Aww.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
A bonus guest on our episode today.
Yes. Thank you for letting me bring him.
Of course. Oh,
he
precious.
sleeps on the job a lot.